ready? 1, 2, 3. I love how the front just jumps up into the air and kind of slams you into your seat and off you go. I'm Justin Pritchard. This is the 2022 Kia EV6, and in this video, it's key impressions for prospective owners living in northern climates. I've collected some real-world impressions that should prove useful for prospective shoppers in northern climates, and if you're one of those, then I'm hoping this video will be a valuable resource for you in your research and shopping process. I recently spent 1,600 kilometers driving this all-new, all-electric Kia EV6 crossover in its GT line long-range all-wheel drive configuration in sub-zero temperatures typical of late winter in northern Ontario. I think I'm most excited to tell you about how this drives in the snow, and we'll get to that in a bit, but for right now, let's get you fully up to speed on the new EV6, what it is, how it works, and what's inside. My tester is a GT line long-range all-wheel drive, the current top dog model shown here at about 62,000 Canadian dollars. You get 320 horsepower, 446 pounds of torque, and a 441 kilometer electric range in ideal conditions. Several other configurations are available with various battery and performance levels and 2- or 4-wheel drive. The EV6 is built on a dedicated electric vehicle or EV platform, and there's no gas or hybrid model available. There's a low and nearly coupe-like roofline for a slick silhouette, and with a wheelbase as long as the 3-row Kia Telluride, the EV6 is a long machine with short overhangs and its wheels stretched to the edges. The heaviest component, the battery, lives in the floor, which translates to improved interior space, comfort, and handling balance. The GT line's sports-enhanced visuals work with the EV6's energetic design for a look that's decidedly athletic and car-like, a refreshing new face in the crossover scene. Drivers take it in from a cabin that looks great but does leave some improvements to be desired. On the plus side, the EV6's interior is unique, nicely finished and detailed, and features minimized control surfaces and a clean and minimal look from a glance. Fewer buttons and controls means more space for the dashboard styling to stretch its legs. There's more room for materials and patterns and colors and textures to mingle and flow, stack and layer, giving the driver something rewarding to look at across virtually the entire forward cabin. Don't miss the giant instrument and infotainment displays, not that you could. Both Mustang Mach-E and Volkswagen ID.4 use instrument clusters that are scarcely larger than a big smartphone. In the EV6, it's widescreen digital instruments with great graphics flowing into the central infotainment display. This looks less minimal and more high-end, not far off from what you'd find in a big-dollar Cadillac Escalade or Mercedes E-Class. Hop from a Mach-E or ID.4 into this EV6, and the added presence of high-quality display surfaces ahead of the driver seems to substantially benefit the look and richness of the cabin. Beneath the central infotainment touchscreen is the EV6's central control surface. This is a 2-in-1 deal. Drivers click a button to adjust climate controls and click again to adjust stereo controls. The backlit buttons and dials change context depending on the currently selected mode, allowing one control surface to control 2 separate systems. It's a super techy touch that most tech-savvy drivers will appreciate, though the added step of toggling menu context may not be a hit with all drivers since it is more complicated than necessary. Steering wheel, driving and driver computer controls over here on the left, infotainment and volume controls over here on the right. Drive mode down there, we can see that changing up on the screen. So we've got Eco, Normal, Sport, and if we hold this down, we get Snow mode here. We've got heated and air-conditioned seat controls in this area and also the heated steering wheel. And so when you're working this, it's fairly easy to accidentally touch these, so you'll find yourself sort of turning on and off heated seats and heated steering wheel accidentally, even just if your wrist sort of touches this area as you're reaching up here. This can be a little bit crowded. I'd kind of like this to be just maybe a little bit closer into me here. A little bit more separation there, making that a little bit easier to use. This is the EV computer. This makes it easy to keep track of your charging, your remaining range, the effect of using the climate control on that remaining range. So it's telling me here that I have 243 kilometers of range left with the climate control on, 251 with it turned off. Plugging into a USB port is more complicated than need be as well. Though available in abundance, all forward connection and charging ports are located near the vehicle's floor, requiring a good reach down to connect your gear. Thankfully, there's a slick wireless charging pad on the center console near the armrest, and I was happy to have the extra storage beneath the console, whose overall design intends to give this interior a convincingly unique look and some welcome storage provisions. The EV6's cabin isn't lacking for interesting touches or nice stuff to look at inside, but several important controls and functions are slightly more difficult to use than they need to be. Thing is, there's nothing difficult about getting the EV6 to get you smiling on a snowy back road. My tester was a delicious recipe that the winter driving enthusiast would love. Proper winter rubber from Michelin, 320 horsepower to the ground with all-wheel drive, and the on-demand snap of over 440 pounds of torque that's never more than a few millimeters of throttle input away from striking distance. If you've never driven a sporty EV in the snow, I can't stress enough the positive difference this level of on-demand torque and throttle response can make in the hands of an enthusiast driver. Forget waiting for shifting, spooling, or the engine's power curve. Here, there's no lag between throttle input and an increase in your forward thrust. Like all EVs, the only thing between the EV6's powerful electric motors and the road are its wheels.
And so that means throttle response, and right now, let me show you what that looks like and sounds like from here in the driver's seat. We're in sport mode, we're in gear, we're ready to go. Pay attention, you'll hear my foot hitting the floor, and watch the delay between that moment and my torso hitting the seat back. And that's a good representation of how immediate and powerful the throttle response is. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. I love how the front just jumps up into the air and kind of slams you into your seat and off you go. No waiting, nothing to spool, no power curve, no shifting, no torque converter, just immediate go. Because of course with an electric car like this, the only thing between the motor and the road is the wheels. And that is pretty cool.
Sure, there's no transmission to shift and no meaningful soundtrack to the experience, but as someone who loves shifting and soundtracks as much as you do, I promise the EV6's on-demand torque and dialed right-in all-wheel drive system more than cover the loss. Pick Sport Mode from the button on the steering wheel, and the first thing you notice is that the EV6 gets rolling with the tiniest press on the pedal. Press harder and power output swells up immediately, and in direct relation to your throttle position. A deep shove on the accelerator sends snow flying into the air and sends torsos into seatbacks with nearly startling immediacy. Each axle is powered by its own electric motor. That means no differentials, transfer case, or any of the other conventional bits used in a combustion-powered all-wheel drive setup. Fewer parts, processes, and constraints are involved in maximizing traction versus a mechanical system, though using two completely independent motors to deliver all-wheel drive requires in-depth testing and calibration to get the feel and performance just right, and that is where I think this car is most on the ball. It's programming, not hardware and clutch packs, that control the power delivery between and across the axles. It's extremely smooth, and the result from the driver's seat is an incredible surge of both power and grip that just build and swell the harder you accelerate. It's also so precise that full throttle operation on snow and ice hardly even trips the traction control system into action. Enthusiastic drivers can expect to feel the EV6 squirming and wiggling beneath them as they attack the snow and ice, all four tires lit up if you like. Add in quick steering, a fairly lenient stability control, and the laser-precise throttle response both on and off the pedal, and the feel is on par with any of my favorite winter-eating sports sedans, but smoother, quieter, and much more responsive.
So here's a look at what's under the hood in case you're wondering. This is going to be a lot of the hardware relating to the cooling system. We've got a heat pump system in this vehicle. Climate control washer fluid, cooling system for the electrical components, and also, as Joel discovered, doing my job for me, because I didn't even notice this, but got a little bit of extra storage under there, maybe for charge cable, pens and pencils. I think you could put a sandwich in here.
Maybe. Keep it warm.
Yeah, keep a nice warm sandwich in there. And then this just pops off to allow technicians to service what's underneath.
Elsewhere, it's a comfortable and smooth highway drive with a bit of sporty tautness dialed into the ride. If highway comfort is a priority for you, I'd point you towards a test drive of the Mustang Mach-E as well. It's one of my favorite highway cruisers and offers an even more dense and dialed-in highway drive than the comparable EV6. The Kia's ride quality does its best work on the highway, though it is a mixed bag on rougher around-town roads and especially the crumbling back roads common where I live. On one hand, the long wheelbase makes for a comfortable and stable ride over more smoothly undulating surfaces, though rough and broken pavement, potholes, and craters do tend to punch noise and harshness up a fair bit. Often, I thought my sporty Tester rode more softly and comfortably than its looks led on, though ride comfort and noise levels are ultimately at the mercy of the surface you're driving on. Late winter temperatures in northern Ontario meant lots of icy back roads for a spirited drive, but they also meant less driving per charge and slower recharging. Between the freezing mark and about minus 10 degrees Celsius, my Tester's 440-kilometer battery was good for about 315 kilometers of driving. That's primarily on the highway in my case. Based on past experience, I'd expect extreme cold to drop the EV6's range to something like 260 kilometers if it were 25 below. That's still plenty for most Canadians who drive on average less than 50 kilometers per day. So we'll start here with the level 1 charger. This is the same outlet that you would plug your Christmas lights into. Comes to a travel charger here, and this lets you charge your EV6 using this connector here. So that's 120 volts. This is the slowest way to charge your EV. This is called level 1. You might refer to this as the travel charger, and it has this handy bag in here, which is secured with Velcro. Makes it easy for you to take that with you on the go. And at room temperature, I would expect about 4 kilometers per hour of recharging that battery, which might be all you need. Thing is, in the cold, around 0 to minus 10 has been the weather here this week. On level 1, I'm only getting about 1 kilometer per hour added back to that battery. So very, very slow. Again, that might be all you need if you're just driving infrequently. But the solution, if you want to make sure your battery is fully recharged all the time, even in cold temperatures, is to go with a level 2 charger. And that's what I've got plugged in here right now. They actually use the same connector. So we just unplug this. Same connector there. This is my home level 2 charger that I've been using for a couple of years. I got this for about $700 during a Black Friday sale. I've got a little light in there you can see, and just clip that in there. Get the cord up and out of the way. This is about 10 times faster. So level 1 charging, I'm expecting about 4 kilometers per hour at room temperature. Level 2 charging with this, at room temperature, I'm expecting about 40 kilometers per hour. And this is what a really simple home install looks like. So I've actually got my fuse panel right here. And if we just come back around this way, we can see the chargers right there. So very minimal wiring. That's 240 volts instead of 120 volts. And so with minimal wiring involved, this was about $1,000 all set to have this set up. Charger right there, and household fuse panel here. So level 2 at room temperature, about 40 kilometers per hour added to the battery in my experience. And in the colder temperatures like we've had this week, 0 down to about minus 10 Celsius, I'm getting about half of that, roughly 20 kilometers per hour while it's plugged in. Again, take these as ballpark figures because your results will vary. The EV6 should provide plenty of space for 4 adults, provided that they're not too tall. Here's a closer look.
All right, so let's help you visualize how big the Kia EV6 is inside. You may not have seen one of these in person yet. So I'm 5'10", 200 pounds. Here is my comfortable driving position. Headroom in this a little bit tight. I've got about 4 fingers. That is with the sunroof on this model. Otherwise, nothing's crowded. Again, a little bit more of a coupe-like driving position. It can feel a little bit crowded up here above my head. Other than that, no issue with space. Plenty of room for my knees if you like to sit with your legs a little spread out and farther apart like that. We do have this big open space under here. These charging ports are actually quite a reach down there. There's nothing else closer. So you can see from up here, if I need to plug something in, as camera guy James pointed out, I have to reach all the way down here to get to these plugs and these charging ports. That is a bit of a pain in the butt. Other than that, the position of everything around me is pretty easy. Nothing feels too particularly cramped. Let's see how I would fit directly behind myself. First thing to tell you there, you probably just saw me getting in very, very easy. Big door opening, enough headroom up here if you're conscious of sort of ducking a little bit. That's got to be almost a foot of leg and knee room in front of me. We've got charging ports on each seat here and here, although nothing down there. This rear floor is completely flat, which helps to add comfort because we don't have a hump here in the middle, so lots of room for your feet. This has the same wheelbase as a Kia Telluride, which is a 3-row crossover. That's probably the main reason I've got so much legroom back here. Again, headroom a little bit tight, shoulder and hip room just fine. This is going to be no problem at all for 4 adults, even for fairly long-legged adults, I would think as well. Folding down the seats, little lever down here on the outside. almost a flat fold, not quite, a little bit of an angle there, fairly easy. Split folding, of course. It's a little bit heavy for one-handed operation for some people. And you do get a bit of a recline on that if you want to lean back in your seat. But again, just a little handle under here. Down that goes, almost completely flat, not quite, but close enough.
After dark, my tester's head-up display and powerful headlights added confidence to the nighttime driving experience. The big, colorful, and highly animated head-up display really comes to life after dark. It adds some serious high-tech flair to the nighttime drive, though I did wish I could position the display a little lower in my line of sight. Headlights are clean, bright, and powerful for lighting system performance that I found easy on the eyes and easy to appreciate on unlit stretches of northern highways. I think most drivers coming here from a vehicle that's a few years old, maybe with an older halogen lighting system, are going to find this a big upgrade, though high beam performance doesn't quite have the reach I'm expecting at this price point. So if your next primary or secondary car will be an EV and you're digging the EV6, I'd strongly suggest giving this machine some serious attention, especially if you're a winter driving enthusiast.
Thank you for watching. My name's Justin Pritchard. Don't forget to hit that like button down below if you learned something new. And until next time, take care and drive safe.